The following podcast is taken from a live broadcast on Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum. You are listening to the Inspire FM. This is the live show of Welcome to Islam, and I am your host, Kerry Mannon. So I am here doing a live show today with my local ladies from the Luton Revert group. And today's show, we're going to be talking about the social etiquette of social media and good adhab while we're online. And I know this is going to be something that's going to appeal to the new Muslims and the current community. So we are shortly going to have a quick break for the azan for Maghrib. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. So you are listening to the Welcome to Islam show, and we are going live on Inspire FM 105.1. So today in the studio, we have the Luton Revert group. As you know, we come and do the Welcome to Islam show once a month. And so today I've got two lovely guests in the studio with me who I'd like to introduce. So I have Sister Catherine with me. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
And I have the lovely Sister Rosa.
Wa alaikum assalam.
So today, the topic that we thought that we would discuss, I think is really important at the moment, and especially in the light of things that have been happening lately, and that is to do with social media adab or etiquette, because as we know, social media is becoming so prevalent and so influential, and yet it's really important that we, as Muslims, moderate the way that we behave on these various platforms. So we are talking all of the social media, internet, the WhatsApps, the Facebooks, the Twitters, the Snapchats, all of that. So if anyone would like to join in the conversation with us this evening, please do call in on the normal numbers. That's 01582 481 822, or you can call in on the mobile, which is 07779 481 822. And I do believe we're also going live on Facebook. So Rosa, would you like to kick off our discussion for this evening?
Right. Well, the one thing that I have to point out, first of all, I'm one of those people that embraces technology. So from my point of view, I only see the good in something to begin with. So from my point of view, it starts off with the right intention. And when it comes to social media, it is only as good as the intention that you put into it. But that's just the beginning. So if we look at how we interact as human beings from an Islamic perspective in everyday life, it is about transferring how we behave in everyday life to how we behave online.
Yeah, because you can't just assume that because you have some level of anonymity because you're online that the way that we should interact with each other should be diminished in any way.
That's correct. And the first thing that we need to look at is what does the Quran tell us? How does Allah say that we need to engage with one another? And the one immediate ayah that came to mind was from Surah Al-Hujurat, which is Surah 49, and this is Ayah 13, and it says, and I'm going to read it in English because my Arabic is only so-so. So it says, O mankind, we created you from a single pair of a male and a female, and made you into nations and tribes, that ye may know each other. Verily, the most honored of you in the sight of Allah is he who is the most righteous of you. And Allah has full knowledge and is well acquainted with all things. So social media is about getting to know each other.
Yes.
It's about, if we look at it from the point of view of the younger Muslims, the younger generations, they have something that we didn't have before growing up.
Yes.
They have the opportunity of engaging with Muslims from all countries, from all cultural backgrounds, and
Yes.
actually enriching and sharing their experience of what it is to be a Muslim in this current era.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to say, is that this programme today, we're hopefully not just going to be bashing social media and saying it's the evil of all evils, because, you know, used in the right way, social media can be such a powerful tool, especially in terms of dawah. You know, there's just so much to be had if used correctly, and that's the key, is that it is a tool, and any tool used incorrectly will bring you harm. And any tool used correctly can be really powerful and helpful.
Absolutely. So it's also one particular study that was done from I think it was from an education an education academy in the States.
Okay.
And one thing that they did was they did a study, and they actually saw that there was an increase in quoting Quranic verses and in quoting hadith and in sharing and liking those on the build up to Ramadan.
Yes.
During Ramadan, as well as on the build-up and during Hajj. So it shows that actually, from the point of view of Muslims, it is the intention is there to, first of all, to give the news, the good news of what Islam is about for them, to everyone out there, serve as a reminder for ourselves and also for everybody else that's out there too. So so there is positive intention in the use of social media from that point of view. But obviously this also needs to be done in the right manner. So it isn't I think that there is a lot on how we conduct ourselves. So the intention is the good intention. What do we want to do? What do we aim to achieve from engaging in this?
Yeah, and I think you've picked up on a really key thing, because any worldly act that we do can essentially be ibadah if we have the right intention. So, you know, as long as we've got the intention to make our interaction a positive one, then, you know, inshallah, there's a reward in it.
It needs to be uplifting for ourselves and for others. As Muslims, it is important for us to be happy in what we do and how we engage in life. Being in the deen means to rejoice in our faith. So to be detrimental, to be negative in how we express ourselves always, then, you know, people will look at us and will get to know us like, there she goes again. She's just having a go again. She's going to be miserable again. She's complaining again. And that's the thing. But they just, because if you're visibly Muslim, people will see you not just that, oh, that's her being miserable. That's a Muslim woman being miserable. That's a Muslim being miserable. So, okay, so there isn't, Islam is not all that if you're going to be like this all the time.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's almost a responsibility, if you're putting yourself out there, that we do conduct and kind of promote Islam in the best possible way, because otherwise, you know, we know that our faith is perfect, but we as human beings are not. One of the things that's been topical at the moment is the footballer Mo Salah, who has done an amazing thing for this faith in terms of promoting it and, you know, kind of making it more accessible, or more people become more accepting of you know, having somebody on such a stage, such an international stage. And actually he's come into a lot of slack. I don't know if you ladies are aware of a current he's did a GQ men's magazine spread recently.
Okay. So what, interview?
No, I think there probably was an interview as part of it, but that's not why he's become under fire. It's because of the pictures that he's taken.
Okay.
So he's taken, there's pictures of himself. Obviously, he's a footballer, but he's wearing fashionable clothes like a suit and things, but his chest is showing. And he's also in these photos with gorgeous ladies.
But is his aura covered?
No.
Okay.
No. So we get, you get to see his body and you get to see him with lovely ladies draped over him. Yeah, and so I think he's probably really regretting that move because that's there now for forever. So
that's not even social media, that's mainstream media.
No, but of course, once something like that gets out, it's spreading now and perpetuating, and it's on that's where I saw it on Facebook.
Yeah. And that takes it to the next thing, which is that if you are somebody who's the moment you have a platform. Yes. And you use that platform, you will also be judged accordingly. And you also, in this particular case, this is somebody who's a role model.
Yes.
And if somebody says, well, if he does it, then it must be all right.
Yeah, we're all just kind of going, visual aid here, slapping our heads and shaking like, what has he done?
A few months ago, there was a discussion in a group that I'm at, just raising, this was when he was still sort of the hero and promoting Islam. People were saying, just be careful, he's human.
Yes, of course.
One day he might make a mistake, and what will happen?
Yeah.
And then it's happened, you see?
Yes.
So we just have to be careful of, who we're...
But the thing is that we, from people looking outside at us as Muslims, they're going to see us as representations of our faith. So you and I know that that we're going to falter, we're going to sin, but one of the things of our faith is that we cover each other's sin. So me even talking about his sin actually is not good, because I should be trying to cover the sin of my brother or sister.
In how many hundreds, thousands of copies of print?
Yeah, I know. So this is the cat's out of the bag.
That's not even distribution. What about the circulation? Because all it takes is that magazine being left in a dental surgery.
Yes. Yes. But again, he is a huge representation of our faith because he's done a lot of good.
Yeah. But he's human.
But he is human and he's slipped, and inshallah
he'll forgive us all.
Inshallah,
we all are.
It's a reminder for all of us just how easy it is to slip. He probably didn't. I don't know if he even gave it a second thought at the time, or maybe things just escalated. He thought, okay, I'll do GQ. The next thing he knows, his top's out. Next thing he knows, there's a lady next to him who's slippery slope.
So shot or whatever it's called, how they can change.
Yes, of course.
We don't know.
No, but he's kind of let GQ use his image.
Yeah.
And not in a positive way Islamically.
Because they are not an Islamic publication, therefore they didn't have the best interest of Islam, but quite rightly the circulation, distribution and readership. So
yes, we have to be careful of vanity. I'm just to let people know, there's this book, Being British Muslims by Mamnoon Khan. It's recently been launched, and there is a small chapter here about adab and social media, and he just sort of mentions here we have to be careful of vanity, or the Arabic word is ujb. I'm maybe not pronouncing that right, but it is one of the diseases of the heart we have to be careful of, and it's so easy in any sort of media to become vain and we have to be so careful of ourselves.
And again, that goes back to my point about having the correct intention. If you're doing things online for the sake of kind of getting more followers, getting attention, that's a worldly gain. We need to be thinking what we're doing, is that going to please our creator, because that's what it's all about at the end of the day.
So I think we all have, there's intention, but there's also knowledge. We have to have a level of knowledge. We can have a pure intention, but without sound knowledge we can be in all sorts of trouble.
Yeah, because what you do needs to follow through on your intention.
Yes. You also need to be able to sustain a conversation. I mean, it depends on, you can have in social media, if it's something like Facebook, for instance, where you have your privacy settings up and running, and you only surround yourself with people that are uplifting to you, that are good for your deen. So you're already creating a halal environment for yourself. That's one thing. But if you choose other platforms that are very public, like Twitter, for instance, then everybody and anybody can come at you for whatever reason, and you have to be prepared. So with whatever you say, it should never ever be casual. There should never be a casual liking something that somebody said. There should never be a casual following someone because of something they said, when it actually turns out I think I had somebody on Twitter following, liking something I said, and then when I went to look at their profile, because I don't follow just anybody, it turned out that he was quite, it was a very right-wing, Britain First kind of person, and he liked something I said, and I thought, you obviously didn't take a very close look at who I am and what I, what I.
Well, maybe he did.
Myself.
And maybe he's highlighting what you've said.
Yes, and he's, as Allah says in the Quran that you wrote, we are made different so that we can learn from each other.
Yes.
So
he might have genuinely liked what I said. Yeah. There was no repercussions afterwards. There was no further down the line people kind of jumping the gun at it, because clearly I'm a nobody. So it wouldn't have as much of an impact as if they went to war on a higher profile Muslim, if you know what I mean. But it was. I found it somewhat amusing and ironic. But what I was saying at the time was something positive and uplifting. So it could have been the opportunity for them to say, well, what about you people? You where you cover your head, you Muslims, you do this, you do that, and it's like, and it could have been much of that, and it wasn't. So.
Alhamdulillah. So, talking about, how we should behave on social media, is there kind of like some guidelines or kind of, especially if we can go back to Quran?
Yeah, so there are major infractions that we should not be engaging in, full stop, ever. So if we are not allowed to engage in them in the first place in everyday life, and you wouldn't be telling someone, then you would not be doing it on social media either. So one of the things will be about spreading marital secrets.
Yes.
And that's one thing that we will not do. We will not, we are supposed to be, we've been created to be as spouses, a husband and wife, and as covering for one another.
Yes.
And therefore, we conceal what is in the home and
protect it.
And protect it, because it's precious. To actually, the moment we are, our spouses who's supposed to have our back.
Yes.
And how can they have our back if the minute we're outside the house, it's like, you know what, it's just he's leaving the towel on the floor in the bathroom all the time. He's such a slob. And it's like, I don't know what I saw in him. How could I possibly...
And you can't take that back.
By the way,
once it's out there...
by the way, I've got to point out, I'm not married, so all of this is just make-believe, right? So I am actually not saying anything negative about my spouse, because I haven't got one, okay?
But as well, once you've made that complaint about your spouse or indeed anyone, that's out there now. You can't take it back, because there's no deleting, and it's been said and it'll be there. So what you've said in the heat of the moment of complaining about someone, it's there now for public record.
Absolutely.
Forever. For eternity.
Yeah, and then all it takes, and it's a very common approach to screenshot things, screenshot conversations. So all of a sudden there's a screenshot of something because...
Yeah, what you thought even was a private conversation, like let's say WhatsApp. You're having a conversation with someone. Well, they could be, like you said, screenshotting it and saving it and forwarding it around.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So that's one of the things. That's a big no-no. So keep your personal life personal. Unless it's a joyous occasion and you want to share it, then it's something else. The other thing is heretical statements. To actually say something which is diametrically opposite to what the Quran says, just because it's your personal feeling or your personal perception, that's also not a good way to be, because then you are basically putting yourself out there to be someone who actually decries the Quran, who says, well, you know, or devalues it.
Yes.
When it is such is perfect in itself, just because we don't have a full understanding of much of it, doesn't mean that what's in there is wrong. So that's one of the other things. The one thing that you said about speaking without knowledge.
Yes.
So what are the dangers of speaking without knowledge?
Well, if you're coming from a place of ignorance or misinformation or untruthing, and you're spreading it, or it's risky. You're spreading untruths, really.
What does that do to your soul?
Indeed, what does it do? So it's just, and we as Muslims, we talk about intention, and I had the intention. Yes, we need to put a good measure in towards actually seeking knowledge before we spread something that we've seen. Check, is it true? Fact check,
Yes.
Basic fact check. Because if we're putting something out there,
especially if it's something derogatory in some way, like say, so and so has done this, or really we don't want to go there, because if it's wrong,
yes,
that's your responsibility.
It will come around. It will come back to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you are somebody who spreads.
Because often I'll often come across things that are actually, when you check it, it's out of date. It happened last year or 5 years ago.
Oh, that's happened so much.
Yes,
yeah.
And you're spreading it as something that's happening now, and everybody should be worrying about it or doing something about it. It's been gone, done, finished.
Gone, yeah. Okay, ladies, so we're coming up to a break. Inshallah, we'll resume this conversation after the break. Assalamu alaikum.
You're listening to an Inspire FM podcast, making available our popular programs from our daily broadcast on Inspire FM.
Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Inspire FM, and welcome to Islam monthly slot, hosted by the Luton Revert Group. I am not Kerry. I'm just standing in for her for a split second. Here she comes.
Assalamu alaikum. So sorry about that, listeners. I just had to quickly run and do my Maghrib Salah, so I do apologise about that. So, okay. Where were we, ladies? We were talking about the social etiquette. But actually, before we do that, can I just quickly say about the Luton Revert Group, actually, while I remember about it? So I know you've probably all heard it before, but we are the Luton Revert Group. We are a community of reverts here in Luton, who we basically encourage friendship, guidance and education within a safe environment. And we meet once a month. We try to do the first Saturday of every month, so there's some consistency and people know where to find us. So actually, we've already had October's meeting, and that's where we had Brother Mamnoon Khan come in and do an introduction of his lovely book called Being British Muslims. And that was really a very interesting meeting, just talking about the cultural climate here in the UK and what it means to be British Muslim today. Our next meeting is actually on the 2nd of November. That's a Saturday at 2 till 4 at the Dallow Road Community Centre. And we will be having a little bit of social time. And actually, we're going to be going on to talk a bit more about actually social etiquette on the internet and social media. And we'd love to see you. And it is a family meeting as well. So any new Muslims out there, you can bring along your family and friends, and we'd love to see you. So let's get back to our show. So we were talking before the break about some of the kind of strict rules, really what we shouldn't do that could really get us into hot water.
The one thing that you said about speaking without knowledge, that's one of the key things, because if we say something which is untrue, what can happen is that we are transmitting knowledge which is not accurate, and it can give the wrong impression about us, about Islam, and also it can perpetuate that incorrect knowledge. One of my major bugbears, and it's because for us it's important to seek knowledge. I learned about how to look at different hadith and whether they are sahih hadith, whether they're true, whether they're strong hadith, whether they are weaker hadith, as well as fabricated hadith. And there are hadith out there that because of they had oral transmission. The chain of transmission had to be verified, and all it took was one person in that chain to have been inaccurate just the once, that all of a sudden he could not be considered as a truthful narrator, and therefore that hadith itself is compromised. So to post a hadith, which it could be completely made up, it's lovely. It's really, it's got a really lovely intention from you. It's a good intention. You want to raise awareness of this particular topic. So you share this hadith that you've come across, no reference whatsoever. Doesn't say where it's from, doesn't say what book it was reported in. There's no hadith number, nothing. So the moment that I am faced with something like this, I will go and try and find out, because good old Google will probably come up with some information for me to find out where the hadith is from.
Yes.
And when I find out that hadith was not an accurate hadith, or it's even worse, it's fabricated, what does it say to me about the person that sent it to me in the first place?
And how many people have already seen it before you?
Yeah, and then all it takes is somebody who perhaps is not a Muslim who will kind of go and look it up and say, well, this is fabricated,
Yes.
this is not true. So these Muslims don't tell the truth.
They don't even know what they're
All
doing.
Muslims, not just this particular Muslim, all Muslims, slapdash and that sort of thing. So for me, that's a biggie. The one other thing that we must not do in everyday life is disclose the faults of others. So if somebody makes a mistake, then we kind of go kindly and gently, and we kind of say to them, just this is before anybody else sees this, it might be a good idea for you to take it down, or
Yes.
or you
Rather than
edit,
publicly berating them. Yeah.
or edit what you were trying to say. I can see you had good intention. Can you add, just to edit so that you still have it there, but worded in a more accurate manner. It's and you do it with the best of intentions, because you would want somebody to correct you in a gentle way.
Yeah.
Also, if you made a mistake.
And that just brings to mind something that actually happened. We run a Luton Revert Group Facebook page where we try to, post authentic hadiths, inshallah.
Yes.
And we try to post information about events that are happening and things that we're doing. And, I quite often just share things that are current and topical that might be relevant to our followers. And one of the things I shared recently was about a young Muslim journalist, a young lady from the BBC who'd passed away. And so I just shared this and didn't really think anything much more about it until somebody else, a follower who I will remain nameless, commented on the post saying about how she's not a proper Muslim, she's going to go to hell anyway, look at her, she's not following hijab, she doesn't believe in any of it.
And what really upset me the most was the closing sentence on there, which was, and she probably never prayed.
Yeah, and it's like, how can you even come to that? Yeah,
how do you know? You're supposed to think the best of your brother or sister.
Yeah, it was very upsetting actually to have that and to think that, because you like to think that the people who follow your page are all good intentioned and are there because we want to share knowledge between us and get to know each other. And then when when you get somebody post something like that, and then it's like, well, then how do you tackle that?
Exactly.
Because you know, you don't want to leave it there, but at the same time, you have to address it, because I think, you know, when you see an injustice like that, when you see somebody publicly saying, you know, somebody who's passed away, you know, to degrade their memory in such a way is so upsetting. You know, so I think the way that we approached it in the end was that we quoted some Quran about how, you know, you shouldn't, again, like the point you were making about we shouldn't judge people, and we should cover any inadequacies of our fellow brothers and sisters. You know, just because she wasn't wearing hijab in this picture. And let's face it, as new Muslims, there's pictures of me flying around that I've not got hijab on. You know, that's there now, and it's on my Facebook or whatever. People can see that I've not got hijab, but that's my past. You know, and so this could be the same for this young girl. It could be that she wasn't wearing hijab in this particular picture, but you don't know. And yet,
and
for
also
this
maybe it's possible she'd come to her own reasoning that she didn't feel it was necessary to be wearing it. What we have all sorts.
We're all only answerable to Allah at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And so whatever she decided for herself is up to her.
And Allah.
And to be judged in such a way and to be called, you know, I mean, I don't remember if he used the word kafir, but I know that he was basically saying, or I'm saying it's a he, but I don't know for sure, that you know, she wasn't a believer and that she's going to hell. And
so about what, you could ask yourself, what was his intention, the person's intention in putting this out there.
It's almost like it's, you know, like it's seen to be you know, we all aren't happy if we see something that is going against our faith. Obviously all of us are disappointed in a fellow brother or sister if we see that they are not doing something they should be. But
we feel they should be by our
but exactly today. It's our perspective, and we're not there to judge.
The one thing is that it's something that I was reminded of recently, and it is that when we post something and we respond to somebody with outrage, is who are we outraged on behalf of? Who are we outraged for? Are we outraged because it hurts our sensibilities, or are we outraged for the sake of Allah? And that's one thing that now I actually find more and more a question, that if I see something that's inappropriate, I'm thinking, do I need to say something? And if I'm saying something, is it going to be useful for whoever it is? And am I upset? Who am I upset for? Am I upset because there's something that's like, well, I wouldn't do that. No. Am I upset because Allah wants to see the best in everyone, and for our sake, we want to see our beloved brothers and sisters flourish as well. So if we and that's the whole point. As the Ummah, we help each other out. The one thing is that from that point of view, that particular either brother or sister, we don't know, who posted that comment, it was public. It was publicly done. That was a typical instance of. It was a case of, was he being modest? He or she, were they being modest in the way they were expressing themselves? Were they engaging in a sinful activity and not being ashamed of it? Because that's the one thing when it comes to social media, that there we are with our phone or our tablet or our laptop in our living room, in our bedroom, in our home, and it's just us and that piece of tech. There is nobody else physically present there watching us.
There's no filter.
You know, so therefore we just
we have to use our own intellect and faculties to filter things. Dr. Mamun, he says here, try putting yourself in that person's shoes. Where there's a need to call things out, be like a really tough scholar who really thinks deeply, taking time to reason properly before conveying them with due respect in language. So really think about what you're saying. And what
not
you're saying.
just a knee-jerk reaction,
which is often from an
Yes.
emotional basis.
Yes.
That is our nafs,
Yes.
which is flawed, and we need to use our brain that Allah's bestowed us with to give when it's necessary to give a response. It's a timely and polite and kind.
Yes.
And there's no shame in actually saying I don't know. Because I mean, for me, like as I mean, I call myself a new Muslim, even though I took Shahada a number of years ago, but I'm still learning, as we all are.
Absolutely.
And so there are gaps in my knowledge. And if I'm, for example, doing something in Dawah and somebody asks me the question of something that I'm not sure of, it's okay to say you don't know.
Yes, we can't be expected to. Islam is so vast.
Yes.
Yeah.
We can't be expected to know everything, the answer to everything.
Sometimes there's the fact that there's the perk about something being online is that you don't have to answer
Straight
there
away.
and then.
Yeah, you can go away.
You have actually the time to go and find out
it's because
for
you get
yourself.
it's that immediacy, isn't it? You
Yeah.
can immediately respond to something that's happening. That other people can immediately respond to you, and it's all feeding.
And it's almost like they want to get there first.
Yes.
I'm going to
Yeah.
be in there quickly and be the first to respond.
That's the other thing. It's taken the time to look at the previous comments and say, somebody's already replied to that. I don't need to say anything. That's fine.
Yeah.
That's good. Saves me the trouble.
It's better to say something good or constructive, or to remain silent otherwise. Yeah.
And I think that's not just on social media.
No,
That's in
that's
general.
life.
Yeah,
That's
that's life.
I've started to describe myself a little bit on a personal level. I've started describing myself as a bit of what I say and how I express myself as an iceberg. So basically, just think about all the what you hear from me is just that above the water level. And imagine all the stuff that I could have been saying, and I probably thought, and that I think, oh, shall I, shan't I, ooh, and that I actually don't. There's so much more. So.
I think the wisest people are the ones who say least on reflection in history and in our.
Well,
yeah.
Inshallah, I'll get there. Inshallah, we'll all get there. The one thing that I found of interest is the fact that Dr. Mamnoon said, well, there isn't an actual list of adab out there, but as we were, Catherine, you were saying earlier, is the fact that we take the adab from everyday life and we transfer it onto social media.
Yes, we should be doing that. Yes.
So there isn't a need really for a list of adab in itself.
No, we don't need a new fiqh.
No,
I don't think
the fiqh of social media.
No, it's there already. How to behave towards each other. Just the means, the technology is different, but we have to engage our brains so much more, because once it's there forever.
Yeah, and not just that. When you're engaging in this kind of way on social media through whatever platform you're choosing, it's not the same as a personal interaction. So you can't judge people because you're not getting those other cues of body language, of
context.
Of context. Exactly, Catherine. So therefore, you kind of have to tread lighter because of that. Because you can totally misconstrue what somebody's saying because just a difference in language,
tone of voice, and
absolutely.
It's trying to use neutral terms. So that's the other thing, that because it's there is no filter in that sense, that we are more ourselves the way we would be with our friends than we would be with an employer, for instance, or a colleague at work, or somebody we've just met. The way that we conduct ourselves on social media is like we just quite easily if somebody says something, we'll go, mate. I mean, seriously, mate, how could you possibly say that? And we would not talk to a stranger that way. We would not presume if somebody came up to us and kind of called us mate, I'm going, excuse me?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I mean, I shouldn't really admit this, but I love a bit of road rage. I'm a classic road rager. Yeah. What I do is when I'm in my car and somebody cuts me up or someone's not using the right lane, I'm there going, you Wally, what are you doing? Get in the right lane. Da, da, da. And I've come to realise, it's because I'm in my own little box.
In your car.
In my own bubble.
Nobody
I feel
can hear
safe.
you.
Yeah, nobody can hear me. So I let my guard down
But
and I'm
people
like,
can see you.
Yeah, but and I've come to realise, actually, you know what, Kerry, you shouldn't do that. It's kind of the same thing of social media.
Camera, like some speed camera has actually picked up your face and there it is. That's the other thing. One of the other major infractions that we should not be engaging in as Muslims is backbiting and slander. So there's this common activity now where you see, I can only describe it as celebrity bashing. That you just some celebrity does something and then everybody jumps on and it's like a mob kind of lynching of mob culture where everybody just kind of like starts pelting them with stones because they've done something that's unacceptable or inappropriate, or they've so everybody just jumps on the bandwagon. There's such a thing as using it as an example to be within the context of discussion, like here on this radio show, for instance, where we mentioned that footballer and what happened as a way of expanding the discussion. But there's also because everybody else does it, it's okay for me to do it too. So it's all of a sudden there's this element of anonymity that as part of a group of people having a go at someone, we're actually slandering them. We're doing them an injustice. We're doing ourselves an injustice because we're clocking up the sins.
I'm trying to remember what the Quran quote is or the Hadith is about how in this kind of situation, you should refrain from that because it's just going to get you into trouble. It's so right.
We're not there. We're not present. We're not witnesses to that person's sin. We are not. We don't have all of the knowledge. We don't have all of the understanding of what went on. It's not our place to comment. So. In the end of the day, our scroll of deeds on the day of judgment, that will be our scroll. Nobody will stand for us and say, no, but she meant well, or she did this, or she did that. No, the same as for them, it will be the same. So it's not a place. Just what else could be? I was just thinking.
Well, I mean, we've got just 5 minutes left of the show now, and I know that there's this really useful infogram that you've used before, Rosa.
It's pretty, it's quite lovely, and it's simple because it's something that you could have, you can find the image online and you can print it out and you can have it next to, you can have it next to your phone. Or
we'll put it on our Facebook page and link it onto the Inspire FM as well, so that our listeners can pick it up.
Because good adab, it's not just for parents that are concerned about how their children interact online. Obviously, there are basic rules about how your children should engage online. Make sure that you as a parent are in the same room with them. You make sure that you have certain secure parameters in place
and know who they're talking to.
Know who they're talking to, and limit their timing online, and know what sites they're going to and for what purposes. The kind of child safe parameters you put in place to
because
their
I mean,
access.
we were talking about Google earlier. You can put in like really what you would think is a word which would not get you into trouble of any kind, and then all of a sudden in the results list there's just all kinds of horrendous things, and you're like,
cannot unsee those things. Once you've seen them, it's really hard. So there are those. You have basic guidelines of how you would get your children to go online and for what purposes and so on. But you also have to bear in mind that these rules of good adab, they're for everybody.
Yes.
Any age. We are not immune to it. And there are certain fatwas that have been put in place for certain social media from the Grand Mufti of Saudi Arabia about Facebook and about Pokemon Go, and so this back from 2012. Then you have other fatwas from India about Twitter and about or a fatwa from Iran about uploading images on Facebook. So there are fatwas for different things, but they have specific purposes of why. We still need to conduct ourselves in a more general way. We can't take away from the fact that there is a positive impact on using social media. The same as we surround ourselves with good examples and good role models that promote our iman, and inshallah we do the same for them. So we surround ourselves with halal conversations. Equally, we need to be very much alert to how we debate with people. So we look at this. This is the word think.
Yes.
And the word think is literally that. It's about wondering to ourselves, is it true? First of all, before we post anything, is it true? Have we actually done our background research to make sure that we know that what we're saying is accurate, is current, as you said, Catherine? But also, are we not saying something that is almost true and is slightly misleading? The other thing is it helpful? And from that point of view, are we saying something for the sake of just saying something,
yes,
or filling
to be
in
seen,
this,
to be saying something?
Yeah, to be seen, to be saying something, or to be to just fill in some empty digital space because I haven't been online for a little while. Let me just post something random. Is it helpful? Is it going to contribute to anybody who's just kind of filling up more of the chatter that's not necessary?
Yes.
The other thing is, which goes from there, is it inspiring? Are you going to be leaving the person with a happier feeling? And then, of course, is it necessary? If somebody else said something already?
Yes, you don't need to cover the same ground.
Yeah, exactly. And then finally, is it kind? Because far too often in this day and age, we say things it's just... how we say it is not kind.
Yes, phrase it in a way, even if you want to make a point, phrase it in a way that is not berating someone, but is gentle reminder.
And it's also because in the end of the day, we're brothers and sisters. We ought to love each other.
Absolutely.
Because Mamdouh mentions this in his book. He calls it's slightly different. He calls it the four gates of speech, and I think this is any speech between any human beings. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? And is it the right time?
Yeah,
that's
a good way
thing
to end up.
Yes.
All right, lovely ladies, our time is up, and as always, we could go on for forever. But I have to say, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum
salam.
Thank you for listening to our podcast. We stream our daily broadcast on inspirefm.org. You'll find all our daily updates on our social media at Inspire FM Luton.